Hey, it's me, MLB. Now that we have finished the mini-series with Shoji, we come back to the period comfort one-shots to continue sharing the love with some of the characters who haven't been given a little bit of a spotlight for a while. And so, as you can clearly tell by the thumbnail, here is Tamaki paired with a female listener, and this one-shot is titled Bad Timing. It had been another long day at work. Hero work was never easy, but it was even harder when it was that time of the month for you, since your quirk required blood, and when you were already losing most of it through no fault of your own, it was even harder to let some of it go for the sake of catching a villain or saving a life. Your husband, Tamaki Amajiki, was well aware of your situation and knew it was that time of the month for you. He also knew that you had been asked to work a double shift that day and was already worried about you. Yin? He asked as he poked his head into the locker room at work. Hey, baby, you greeted sweetly to his cute little head poking around the corner. Are you gonna be okay? He asked softly, with a worried look on his face. I'll be fine, you replied with a smile as you tied up the laces on your mid-calf hero boots and stood up. But, he said with concern written all over his pretty little face as he walked over to him. No buts, this is hero work. We gotta do what we gotta do, you said as you cupped his face in your hands and kissed him softly on the nose. He blushed and gave you a soft look, still worried as he stood there half hiding behind the door. Tamaki! The voice of his boss and yours called from down the hall. We've just had a hero pull out from duty tonight. Would you be available to fill in? Yes, I want to say no, but yes, he said in a quivering voice. I don't want to be here, but I'm worried about my wife, he said softly, loud enough for you to hear, but not loud enough for your boss to hear from down the hall. Sorry? The boss asked. He said he'd do it and thank you, you called to the boss, who nodded and walked back into his office. You don't have to tell everyone about me being on my time of the month. Jeez, you whispered. I don't want everyone to know. I'll be fine, okay? But I know what happens if you use up too much of your blood, and you're already low, he said with concern as he looked up and down the hall first before wrapping his arms around you and plopping his forehead on your shoulder. I don't want you to faint out there. You're doing the shift with me, though, you said as you patted the back of his head. You'll be there to help me, right? Always, he replied as he pulled back to look at you in the eye. I want to run from a lot of things, but I'll never leave you, especially out there where you could get hurt. I know, baby, I know, you said sweetly. Well, we better get going. Time to do hero things, right? Okay, he said with a worried look on his face as he gently held your hand in his and you both walked down the hall together and headed for the stairs. The shift that night was looking like it was going to be a nice, smooth run, and you did your patrol with your husband beside you, who kept checking in to make sure you were okay. Can you stop? You giggled, taking his hand quickly and squeezing it gently. I'm okay, I feel fine, you can stop asking. All we're doing is walking around, I can handle that much. I still worry, he said with a sigh. I really care about you. Well, I'm glad, but I promise you I'm just fine, you replied with a reassuring smile. Just then a loud siren went off nearby, and you looked up ahead of you to where the sound was coming from. Help! Help! Someone yelled. The apartment's on fire! You and Tamaki both broke into a run, heading straight for the person who was yelling and waving their arms in the middle of the road. As you got up closer to him, you looked to your left a little and saw smoke rising in dark plumes from an apartment block 2 streets back. We gotta go! You shouted to Tamaki. Call the fire brigade! You shouted at the man standing in the middle of the road. He nodded and grabbed for his phone while you and Tamaki ran past him and headed for the burning apartment. You ready? You called to Tamaki. No, he called back. Okay, we need to make sure that we get as many people out as possible. Can you fly? I'll make webbing to catch anyone who jumps. You try and grab people and bring them out, but watch the flames, you directed him. What about you, though? You can't use too much of your... He tried to argue. We don't have time to discuss this, you yelled. Go, use your quirk, hurry! And reluctantly he made some wings on his back and took off into the sky ahead of you. You watched him fly ahead as you ran, rounding the corner to see that this apartment was being overtaken by flames far quicker than you were expecting. Oh, holy hell, we need to move quick, you thought. You could see some people standing on their balconies waving frantically while the flames licked around and a little below them, and you immediately threw your arms out in front of you and activated your quirk. Your quirk, Bloodstring, allowed you to make intricate designs using blood drawn in webs or silk-like strings from your fingertips. You had honed your skills over your lifetime and could now knit different designs in seconds, making rope, webbing, cords, among other designs to help detain or save. Crisscrossing your arms and flicking your fingers around, you very quickly made a strong webbing from your blood and connected it to the walls of the buildings surrounding you, and then called up to those standing on the balconies. "Jump!" you shouted. "The web will catch you, I promise!" Those overhead heard you, but the thought of jumping down into the suspicious-looking stuff below was making them think long and hard about it. Longer than they should have. "Jump now! Go!" you shouted, sweat beading on your forehead. "Hurry! Time is running out!" The first to jump was a dad holding his baby in his arms, and when he landed safe and sound in your webbing, it encouraged the others to jump too. Next down were a 7-year-old boy holding his young 5-year-old sister's hand, and you helped them off your blood web, and then Mum jumped down next. "Come on! Come on!" you shouted up when you saw a teenage girl peering over the edge of her balcony on the 4th floor. She tentatively climbed over the edge of her balcony and stood there staring down, her fear freezing her in place despite the other members on the ground calling for her to jump. Finally, she did take the leap, and as she jumped you could hear sirens in the distance and prayed that it was the fire brigade coming, while you ran forwards to help her out of the webbing. "My grandma!" she sobbed as you grabbed a hold of her. "Grandma?" you asked. "Yeah, Grandma's still in her room. I couldn't get her out. She fell and she told me to go, and she told me to leave her, but please, can you save her, please?" she sobbed. Just then the fire truck rounded the corner, and you looked over your shoulder as it pulled up in a hurry. You helped the girl out of the webbing and then ran over to the fire truck. "Hero Sunita is collecting people from the building too," you shouted at the firefighters. "There's a grandma still in the apartment. I'm going in. Use my webbing to get more people to jump out. It'll hold," you shouted, before running to the side of the building and throwing your arms and fingers in an intricate pattern to quickly knit yourself a rope using more blood from your fingertips. As the length of the rope increased, you could feel your body going a little bit cold and your fingers starting to tingle, but this was a life or death situation here. You couldn't back down now. Throwing your blood rope over the first balcony ledge, you used it to climb up, using your upper body strength to climb hand over hand up to the balcony. Then you grabbed on, pulled yourself up, and threw your blood rope up to the next balcony and did the same thing again, hand over hand, repeating that until you got to the 4th floor, and then threw yourself over the side of the balcony and ran for the open back door. A second after you disappeared into the burning building, Tamaki appeared, flying around the side of the building while holding someone in his quirk-made talons as he dove down and gently placed them with the others standing next to your blood web. Where's Hiro Azur?" he asked, looking around frantically when he couldn't see you. "She went to get my grandma," the young teenage girl told him, pointing up to the building that was becoming enshrouded in flames and smoke. Tamaki paled and took off into the sky, flying up to the 4th floor and swooping in over the balcony. Inside he could hear the crackling and creaking of the building becoming unstable, and raised his hand to shield his face from the intense heat of the flames. "Yin!" he shouted into the smoke and flames, but no reply came to him. "Yin!" he shouted again, but again you didn't reply. His anxiety peaked the longer that you were taking to reply, or even appear, and finally he put his head down and ran into the burning lounge room. Crouching down, he crawled on all fours, squinting as the smoke burned into his eyes, filling his lungs with coarse, hard fumes that made it impossible to breathe. As he crawled along, he spotted something ahead and crawled faster, his heart racing when he realised it was you lying unconscious on the floor. "Oh no," he thought as he grabbed you. "Gin!" he called again, shaking your shoulder as he crawled up alongside you, but you were out. "Help!" he heard a feeble voice call from just ahead in the room, and he coughed as he tried to draw a breath in to reply back. "Help me, please. I don't want to die," the feeble voice warbled. Ducking his head lower, he crawled past you and reached into the room, grabbing a hold of an elderly hand before pulling and dragging the elderly lady out of the room. "Yin, I can't lose you," he cried, grabbing you with his other hand and then half standing up and pulling you and the elderly lady down the burning hall back to the balcony. As soon as he got there, a firefighter on a ladder jumped in to help and grabbed a hold of the elderly lady while Tamaki scooped your lifeless form up in his arms and spread his wings and then jumped from the balcony and flew down to safety. "Please," he begged one of the firefighters there. "Please, oxygen. I can't lose her. She's my wife," he begged, holding you out for the fireman to place the oxygen mask on your face. It took a while, but slowly you started to come to, and then you were rushed to hospital for smoke inhalation and blood loss. Tamaki, too, had to have treatment, but his main concern was about you, and he kept trying to sneak out of his hospital bed to check on you, so the nurses had their hands full trying to keep him contained and rested. 2 days later, you were more coherent and able to sit up in bed, which he was relieved about. The doctors had treated you for quirk-related anemia and also gave you a few pints of blood to help boost your system along with some intravenous fluids and vitamins, so you were feeling much better by the time you left the hospital, arm in arm with your man. "I'm so sorry," you said to him as you were leaving the hospital together. "I know I overused my quirk. That was really dumb of me to use so much of it in such a dangerous mission, especially at that time of the month." "I aged 5 years because of that," Tamaki said with a sweat-dropped look on his face, his mouth pulled into a wobbly line. "Oh, baby," you said apologetically, patting his arm. "I'm so sorry. In future, I'll make sure that I don't work on that time of the month. I'll talk to our boss about it." "Yes, please. I can't lose you. You're too precious to me," he said as he turned and pulled you into a hug. "Please be careful." "I'm so sorry. I will, I promise," you said as you hugged him back. "But also, you managed to save both me and Grandma. You got everyone out of that building, which was amazing. Maybe I need to pass out in a fire more often. You work well under stress." The look on his face said it all and you giggled. "I'm so sorry, that was really mean. I was 100% joking, okay? No more working on that time of the month, I promise," you said solemnly. "That's another year of my life gone," he wailed softly. "Here," you said, kissing the tip of his nose. "That should restore that year." "It did," he said shyly, giving you a doe-eyed look. "Thank you." "No, precious bean, there have been many asks for Bakuho for a period comfort, so he will be up next week. I'll see you then."